Bing bong. I am live with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast. And I'd like to thank every single person listening on Podcasting 2.0 apps such as Fountain and sending me boosts. I got two very special boosts on the last episode with TXMC that I'm very appreciative of. I got Maroder, Maroder, for 95 sats. He just said, good job. So I appreciate that. I read all these messages and they mean a lot, no matter how little you guys say. And then at BTC 69420 said, great commentary on the halving and miners not being main liquidity sources anymore. I've been trying to say this to people and I get a lot of blank stares. So I'm glad you appreciate what TXMC brought. And yeah, let me know what you guys like about each episode. Feel free to, give me critiques and everything like that because, this show is for you guys. So I do really appreciate the sats and everybody listening on those ads or on those platforms. And then lastly, I do have a very special promo code for you guys at codl.co. That's codl.co. You can get your own punch plate to bring your Bitcoin off of exchanges. So if you've been following the news lately, you can't withdraw your Bitcoin off of any of these exchanges, it seems like, anymore, whether it's Celsius, Voyager, FTX, all these big ones are kind of falling apart. So if you've still got Bitcoin on exchanges, get it off as quickly as possible and put your seed phrase in a punch plate, such as one you can pick up from coddle.co. Use promo code GREENCANDLE. That's GREENCANDLE. And you can get 10% off your entire order. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I know that was a mouthful, but I've got a very special guest. I've got Maxwell Sikorsky here with me, and it's been a long time coming. I mean, we were just talking pre-show. I reached out to you, I feel like 6 months ago at this point now. So I'm glad to finally get a hold of you and get you on the show. You've been putting your head down and building. So how are you doing today? And welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks, man, for having me. This is, like I was saying before, it's a very special moment. People have not seen my face for many months, and let alone heard from me. So, really, that's what you do in these bear markets. There's no excitement on Twitter. It's all the same stuff. Everybody's running to the hills to go and cry in a corner somewhere because their bags are down 80%. You just got to build. So there's a lot of cool stuff coming, but it's great to be here, man. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, exactly. So let's start there, man. It's the bear market. It's for building. It's kind of for building, getting people together. So tell us a little bit about what you do in, all your different things. I know you got, Eden 3D printing, the meetups, all that kind of stuff. Why don't you get into your spiel about what you do in this space and how you've been building with your head down during this bear market?
Yeah, I'm mainly focused in two areas: spread the Bitcoin message and turn thoughts into things. I do that through the Garden of Eden. But first, for Bitcoin, you really got to get the boots on the ground. So my main goal that I've done for basically the past 2 years at this point is even more so into 2020. But a lot of boots on the ground, in-person meetups. Everybody's coming out of the Zoom, meetings and, meeting virtually. We want more Bitcoiners in the flesh. So it was a lot of continuously travel. I haven't done much the past couple months, but a lot of continuous traveling in the Midwest. We've got roughly 17 meetups. I'm sure there's even more, but we have like 17 meetups in the quad 5-state area, if you will. So, and these people are still coming. Price is 80% down. Everything's boring. Crypto's collapsing and all these places like that. But you still get new people to show up and ask, hey, how do I set up a Blue Wallet? So that's really one of the main kind of hobbies, if you will, is to spread the Bitcoin message, visiting city to city, getting as much as you can for people to meet in one area to learn about Bitcoin. The other thing, what pays the bills, is the Garden of Eden. So I always had the idea: how do I turn thoughts into things, and how do I invest in people, right? Green Candle Investments. How do you actually invest directly into Brandon, into a creator, a content creator? I just stumbled upon 3D printing, and really the differentiating factor that I found with printing is you're blending the hardware and software together, but no system, even today, I know I'm about the closest one there is, and I have a lot more to put out on the site, get our user program out of beta, but nobody's really building a system to go from a thought into a thing. So that's what we do at the Garden of Eden. It is taking a sketch that you have, or you say what you want, it turns it into a CAD file, and then you can just send it over to a printer and start printing. You don't need the skills of a CAD programmer or developer. You don't need highly proficient maintenance, if you will. There is still maintenance for 3D printing, but the main point for what I've envisioned for my own Garden of Eden is, how do I turn my thought into thing in a seamless workflow? And that's really what I've been working on the past couple of years, and then really dug your head down deep. It was kind of sad last year for certain things, but that's all just personal stuff. Everybody else experiences those things, but man, what a great time to build. Nobody's bothering you. Nobody cares, but nobody's asking you, hey man, what's the Bitcoin price? Hey, what's doing this? So it's just been very nice to get a lot accomplished and built in the last 6 to 8 months. So that's my main two areas. There's other side projects and things going on outside of that, but spread the Bitcoin message by physical Bitcoin meetups, and get people to turn their thoughts into things.
Awesome. Well, yeah, that's great stuff. And I mean, it seems like you're doing an outstanding job building, obviously you're not the main person running all these meetups, but you're helping encouraging people getting started in them and getting them running, pretty frequently, whether it's monthly or what have you. So, but let's take it back a little bit. Let's talk about the orange pill story. So how did you find Bitcoin? How have things kind of changed since then? And yeah, I guess what kind of drove you to start all these meetups and kind of encourage, people to keep them going and all that.
Yeah, we can do a deep dive on that rabbit hole story at a different episode. You can go and tune into a couple other, shows I've done. I don't want to bore you out with too many details, but long story short, I was on Silk Road at the beginning of 2012 and found how are people transacting with this thing called Bitcoin. Much prior to that, I've always been very fascinated and curious how the actual financial infrastructure operates. What is our paper money, and why is this piece of paper valued when I can put it on a copy machine and just crank out $100 bills all day long? Like, what's the difference here? Okay. So I got a whole deep rabbit hole story on that stuff, but just to say for the context, I have a very unique, everybody's unique in their own way, obviously, but I know I have a very unique approach when looking at Bitcoin. When I first saw that in 2012, I understand the difference as a very young child. My parents both own businesses, so every night at dinner, we sit down at the table, we talk taxes, we talk profit loss, we talk, bringing in, new employees, or we got to do a different deal here. That was always the constant conversation flowing at all times. So I have been very in tune with the difference between money and currency. I think if people can identify the difference between those, you're orders of magnitude beyond what anybody else, the layman just walks into Bitcoin. But I should have bought way more than what I did in 2012. Now that I think about it, I don't think I ever had the courage to go down to Rite Aid to the red phone and call over to Mount Gox and pay. I remember looking at it, it was like $5, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to pay $22 a coin or something like that by the time you pay for your fees and transactions to get it over and stuff like that. It was the money orders and all that stuff. Um, and then I had a whole situation with the with with the feds, which that's a more deep dive story there at a different time. But um, I just sat back and watched the cycle. Not many people can say they've seen every Bitcoin halving. So you could tell what it was going to do, but I had to see it for myself. Meaning, you got your keys you actually hold, and you feel that. So when it goes from $5 to 1,000 and back down to 150, something's there. You're still up from 150 from $5. So what is it? Probably about 2015, I was looking around again, and I go, okay, the halving is coming. We got to do a real hard deep dive, and I just been, down the rabbit hole ever since. And of course, that's now spurred into, freedom, self sovereignty, and spreading that message around. But I consider myself a hardened January 2012. Yeah, what is it? 11 years now. Yeah. So yeah, quite crazy to look at that perspective.
Yeah, man. I mean that's incredible because if you sit back and you look at Bitcoin today, right? I mean, I think the full craze is figuring out ways to use excess energy for mining, and then there's the Lightning Network. There's so many different intricacies, and you got people on Fox News, MSNBC, CNBC, all these like news outlets talking about Bitcoin. Nobody was really talking about it then unless it was just like Bitcoin's dead, and then you probably wouldn't really hear about it. So right now the publicity and everything like that is huge. But you're talking about meetups in general, when you kind of went through your beginning spiel, and how you're still having 80% of the maximum amount of people show up and everything like that. So as somebody who's been through a lot of these ups and downs in the cycles, did you do any meetups during any of these previous cycles? And if so, like how has kind of, I guess, the vibe changed around it since then?
Unfortunately, I didn't do any meetups prior to 2019. Okay. And really that was, honestly, there was nothing around, and there was even nobody remotely um, available to have those open discussions. Like, you got New York Bit Devs was, the biggest, Chicago Bit Devs and stuff like that. But even these guys, San Francisco, these guys were doing this stuff I think, what was the first Bitcoin meetup technically, like what they classified it as. I think it was in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm assuming it's a lot earlier. But a lot of these actual, like, in-person, like, pleb level, organized groups didn't really form until, I would argue, the end of the last cycle. So 2017, 2018, that's when you got around a lot of people that said, hey, we hit 20. I hate talking about the price, but it is it is a very dense number. There's a lot of information packed into whatever your price ticker is. So and like you said, people at Foxy and then whoever else, that's what they're looking at. They don't care about, nobody cares about how many Bitcoin Lightning nodes there are, except for us, right? They don't see that as a growing metric per se. But I would argue that you didn't have the mass explosion of meetups until about 2018, and I didn't do our first one. I definitely tried. Don't get me wrong. I take that back. We did do meetups in 2016 and 2017, but they were kind of in tune with just a technology monthly meetup. Okay, I was the Bitcoin guy, and I would shit out all these crypto people that would come in. I'm like, yeah, that. A little side note there as well. I'm not saying that I was never a shitcoiner, right? We all held our meth or our whatever else like that. But I never really got into any altcoins or tokens, which is really surprising as I look back on it. I was involved with, meaning I just bought some. There were some projects that were interesting of what they were doing, but it was always as a technology. It wasn't as like, oh, this is going to be Bitcoin. I always intuitively knew that, okay, Bitcoin is king. You can't shut this thing off. But getting to that, It couldn't really last outside of 2017. So I think we only did maybe 5, 6 meetups that year, once a month. And the second, I think, is I ended it in February 2018 or so, just because everybody's wondering why it was falling by 50%, and they didn't like the answers that I was giving. So, but we really jumped off and ran for the hills for sure. Roughly, summer of 2019. Again, trying to get people understanding. Hey, you're going to get a big, massive spike here in Bitcoin. You better get on board. So you're not late to the party in this particular cycle. But it was, yeah. Sorry for the long side note there, but it was definitely about 2019 for consistent, regular meetups, and then of course from there, um, you just drive around and try to get people to show up.
Yeah, no, I mean, I get that 100%. But you said you're helping out a bunch of these different meetups within the Midwest area. I'm a Chicago guy through and through, so I was born there. I actually got I think I got a Cubs shirt. Yeah, I got a Cubs
There
shirt
you go.
on right
There you
now.
go.
I got the 2016 World Series Cubs thing up here in the
Saw that. Yeah.
background. So, the Midwest is near and dear to my heart. And obviously, we got a little rough winter. Maybe it's a little warmer now, but and I'm in Florida, so I'm saying all this while it's like 80 degrees down here. But you know, uh, up there, it seems like there is like a lot of big movements kind of going on. But the popular, I guess, conferences and other things are in areas like Miami, Nashville, Austin, and then they just had like kind of Pacific Bitcoin conference. And it seems like the Midwest has kind of been neglected, but it sounds like there's a lot of weekly or monthly meetups kind of going on. So why don't you dive into that kind of scene and what's up going on in there? Because I believe like Strike is headquartered in Chicago, if I want to say that, and
Yep.
so there is some big population and sizes of Bitcoiners up there, but it just doesn't seem that they get as much love as some of these other places, unfortunately.
And it really just goes to what you said. It's the coastal cities, it's the major hubs that are going to blow up first. You need to be in Austin, Texas, if you want to be around the best of the best Bitcoin developers in the world. Period, bar none. Super Testnet, shout out, love that man to death. Again, I'm not trying to put this stuff in. No, I'm not trying to prop myself up in this way, but um, he's from the Midwest. I brought him down to his first BitBlock boom. I introduced him to a lot of these people, and again, I'm not saying that that's anything to be proud of, but there's a lot of value trapped here in the Midwest. I'm in Ohio. I'm in Northwest Ohio, so I'm right at that kind of tri-state corner area. Um, Toledo's the black sheep of Ohio, so we all know that. It's Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and those meetups are rocking. Cleveland, we got some work to do, but really the setup is exactly what you say. You go to the coastal cities first, but I know we have a couple of major events planned for this year for the Midwest to get on that board, but we don't have again the major companies in these areas that we do. But if you kind of look under the rug a little bit deeper, there's a lot of mining, there's a lot of oil and natural gas in Ohio. There's a lot of stuff going on in Michigan, Pennsylvania, okay, Pittsburgh and all that. Just in Ohio, for the ones that I've personally bootstrapped, if you will, there's I'm not going to list them all, but I think there's 7 of them. I'm sorry, five in Ohio that we've bootstrapped in all these major hubs and cities. We now have 7 or 8 in Michigan. There's 2 or 3 in Indiana, and there's 3 or 4 of them in Pennsylvania. 3, I believe, in Kentucky. So you add all these up, and it really becomes quite a lot within your network. I was just talking to Captain Youth yesterday about this. He's one of the members in the Michigan meetup, and the structure goes like this. Okay, just take notes if you want to start your own meetup. I have a guide on. I think it's on Toledo Bitcoin. I'm not sure where it's at. I got to repost it. The structure is this. First and foremost, well, before I even get into that, just very simple. You got like 3 levels. Have a Bitcoin social, then you outgrow that. You reach a kind of like an office space or something where you can, talk to everybody, the 20 plus people. And then once you kind of outgrow that, now you need a formal bit dev structure. Okay. And you can do that however you want. But really, the highlights, I would say, if you're going to start a meetup, is just send out a message on Twitter. That's where all the Bitcoiners are at, basically. Noster and all that stuff like that. Like, I love it to death, but we got a lot of scaling to do and stuff like that. You got to go to the high level surface, plebs. Okay. But once you get that, go out a month in advance and say, hey, let's all meet at this bar and talk Bitcoin. You do that until, once a week, once a month, whatever. You do that until, again, you get 20 plus people and you can't talk to everybody. Now, talk to your people. You're only 7 people away from knowing everybody in the world. Ask somebody there. They know somebody that has an office space or a back room at a restaurant that they can use. Sometimes you got to pay, sometimes you don't, but it's not that difficult to get, Bitrefill or Fold or the Bitcoin company to sponsor you or something, or even I at Eden will sponsor and stuff like that. We'll buy barbecue, but get to that level, get your social going at the bar, and then get to that next level where you're actually doing like a presentation or something like that. And then once you reach that 35, 45 consistent level, now you actually need, to herd the cattle and to say, okay, now we're following the playbook of, Austin and, Nashville, Rod and Mattergilling and, LA Bit Devs and stuff like that. Now you have a formal, organized structure. You fly in a speaker, you do your talks, you're sponsored, you do your workshop, whatever else it is. Now you grow from there. But it's really simple to do that. And that's really what I did in 2020, 2021. BitBlock Boom was fantastic at 2020 because everybody was terrified of, wearing masks and all that stuff. And we didn't care. We were just out having a good time. So it was a good time to say, hey, I'm at a bar, come and talk Bitcoin. I'll drive to Cleveland. I'll drive to, Cincinnati. I'll drive to Grand Rapids or Detroit or something like that. And it slowly grows. Once a week is ideal, but again, that's a lot to ask for. But it's very difficult to do what I did, to bootstrap like 7, 8, 9 meetups, and then those spin off into 3 or 4 meetups each. You're driving 3 hours, 4 hours, paying for drinks or food or whatever you're doing, and then going back. So it's a lot of, thank God for printing, because you can let that stuff roll all night long. So, so that was always good. But really, I would say that is the playbook. If you want to start a meetup, just send a message out on Twitter, go and meet up at a bar, restaurant, whatever. Once you get to that size, find a more suitable location so you can talk to everybody. And then once you outgrow that, now you actually need a set schedule and structure to actually bring in, nobody's on a pedestal, as in Bitcoin, but bring in the more high profile people in our space that are busy in other areas. So that's really and of course, the last part is our major hubs are Detroit. The Detroit Bitcoin meetup meets once a month. We're meeting tonight. But again, it's a bear market. We got like 30 people showing up to the restaurant tonight. Like, we now need to, have a nice set structure and go to a more formal place. Same thing for Columbus. We got River Financial. Their office is now in Columbus. The founders actually went to Ohio State. So, we got Sonoda for an office down there. Obviously, Grid in Cincinnati. They're doing their stuff. We know Intel's building their chip factories in the Midwest like that. But really, that's kind of the playbook. Those major hubs, are going to be, the winners. But even a pleb in Dayton or, somebody, on the outskirts of Chicago or something like that, you don't have to drive downtown to Bit Devs. There's plenty of meetups that are just at the pleb level, meeting at the bar. But really, that's the structure. Meet at the bar and then just scale accordingly as you grow, because you will grow. I know we both know Justin Ragland at Huntsville and at Rocket City Bitcoin meetup, and he's the perfect example of this. Not to put words in his mouth or to talk on his situation, but there's another Bitcoin meetup in Huntsville, but they talk Bitcoin and crypto. and they're not getting the amount of people that Justin is getting. So what does that tell you? It tells you that people are valuing Bitcoin only content. And even on a higher level, we can get into this if you want, but just even on a higher level to that, as I look around, I've done talks at New York Life. I've done, all these, various things, just again, talking Bitcoin stuff. And you do also get these people involved in the meetups, right? There's a lot of boots on the ground. Everybody from every, walk of life is coming in there, depending on your background and stuff, which is really nice. But what I've noticed, especially in this particular bear market, in this cycle, is people have now, meaning the layman on CNBC or whatever money talking head, has now officially distinguished between Bitcoin and crypto, which is really nice. People still can try to blend the two together when they talk DeFi and all that nonsense, but it's nice to now see that there is at least an understanding where, okay, Bitcoin is in its own category so long as you hold your own keys. And then we can talk about, your other crypto related nonsense, if you will. But that's really the more detailed version of how to run a meetup and what value I've gotten out of that, as well, meeting all these people and growing the network. I just said it last night to Captain Youth. I think I looked on the meetup. We're doing a lot of documenting on this stuff to blow it up at the next 2 years here. But I think we got like 5,000 or 7,000 total people.
Wow.
In these Bitcoin. Yeah, it's you look around and you're like, holy crap. Like that's a lot of Bitcoin only people.
Yeah,
that are involved,
Yeah, no. So, you brought up an interesting point about Bitcoin only content, and I think it might be tough for the average, I guess, pleb out there to try to get started with a meetup because when you go to these first couple ones, maybe you have 2, 3 people, and some of them are your friends that are showing up. Especially maybe in these smaller cities, you're not having the 20, 30 people show up initially and you're trying to include everybody. You're not trying to sway anybody. So why don't you talk about, I guess, what you've noticed as to keeping it only or Bitcoin only, and I guess the true benefits of really doing that instead of trying to, I guess, include everybody and include all the crypto nonsense.
The line that I love to say, it's a joke, but there's, a serious undertone to it. I don't show up to a plane, meeting talking about, locomotives, right? So we can discuss said token or said DeFi or whatever NFT, whatever you want to talk about. We can talk about that in context of Bitcoin or Bitcoin related content. But it's kind of like a three strikes you're out approach. Some people are much more hardened to that, but I try to understand that the welcome mat is forever expanding as we get more people coming into Bitcoin. Okay, so you can't be too. We all love our toxic plebs, right? We can be toxic with the best of them, but there is that balance that you have to dance with when you first initially meet somebody. And if it's a guy middle-aged with his family and all that stuff, and he's coming in, yeah, I own this thing and I got Bitcoin here and I bought Grayscale, I did all this stuff. I'm not going to call him a shitcoiner and say, GFY and whatever else like that. You got to listen, from where they're coming from. After maybe a couple minutes talking, you can get a good gauge on, okay, this person is like holding the bags and he really believes in. I'm not even going to name coins and stuff like that because it's not worth my breath. But it's like, okay, he's only holding Bitcoin because it's in the crypto basket and he knows it's going to pump. So it's like, okay, I don't want to be that person, but now we, divert away from him or her or that group and go and promote, Bitcoin only stuff. We do say it at the, beginning of most meetups. And again, like you said, you already know everybody that's there. So when you get the new person, everybody knows who the new person is and you introduce yourself and all that good stuff. So it's very friendly and there's a lot of camaraderie that is there. But you can tell right away when somebody is lacking the understanding of the difference between crypto and Bitcoin, which going back to my beginning statement, they really don't understand the difference between an asset versus debt, money versus paper currency. Um, I think the value that I've gotten out of having these Bitcoin only events, they allow you to go so deep into things. Like once we're, as you know, what I already know you're a Bitcoiner, we can talk. All of those small talk barriers immediately drop, right? I already know a good idea on your political stance, on your humanity stance, moral stance, all that kind of stuff. Like not perfectly, but you got a good idea. If you're a Bitcoiner and you're a rock solid Bitcoiner, you're fighting the freedom battle with all of us here. So what I found so valuable, as you again, tamper the fire and say, okay, we're Bitcoin only. We had a couple of people at some meetups that were just pushing coins and tokens, and we're like, look, man, this is a Bitcoin meetup. If you want to talk about that stuff, I got this crypto meetup down the street that you can go and talk with them. And they leave. That's totally fine. It's probably a bad blemish on us, but it keeps our core, I don't want to call it as pure as we can, but it keeps us on track as best as we can. But getting to that point, the beauty of obviously harnessing everybody into that same mindset, it allows you, and weed out the stragglers that are kind of still dancing. It allows you to go so tremendously deep into Bitcoin only related topics. I have no problem talking about stable coins. I love stable coins if they are on the Lightning Network or if they're somehow directly utilizing Bitcoin only infrastructure. And I'm not saying, like it's like an on-chain transaction, whatever else, but if you're using, like, I don't care if you're doing NFTs or rare pepes or something, knock yourself out. People don't like that, but you still pay the miners for that op return. What's the problem? It's pay to play. So go and do whatever you want on there. As you scale, now we can, that's what Counterparty, diverged into its adoption and stuff like that, but which is totally fine. But that's where it becomes very exciting. Now we can actually get down into the nitty gritty details on what we need to do to optimize the Lightning Network. Or, hey man, I'm having a really tough time figuring out this multi-sig setup between this hardware wallet, my seed signer, and this thing. Can you help me with this stuff? Now you can get into the details, and that's where it's really, really powerful. But you gotta weed out the people that are still kind of on the fence, or they're just trying to get a pump, get a little more organized, and then you can go deep. But I think that's probably one of the best parts about being Bitcoin only. How incredibly detailed you can get into these topics. And of course, we have companies that have formed out of the Columbus Bitcoin meetup. We got projects that have formed out of the Grand Rapids meetup and stuff like that. So there's a lot of value even on the other side to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like you said, there's been companies that have formed out of these things. There's obviously people going through the education and kind of learning. But what is, like, I guess, the coolest story that you've got out of one of these meetups, whether it's through networking or just seeing kind of somebody that you didn't really expect to hit a breakthrough? Maybe that you don't need to dox anybody or anything like that, but
yeah,
just like the power of those in-person meetings, I think is really just not really hit as home as hard as people, I mean, we all had the COVID experience, right? Where people were locked into homes. And I think there was the initial boom of meetups. Like once like a little city kind of got open and some place would let it do it, whether it was at somebody's house or what have you. But what that I don't want to stress it enough to the listeners out there is like that power of that in-person meeting. You never know who you're going to meet and things like that. So if you got a cool story or some anecdote or something like that of, what has happened at a meetup or how it's affected you, please feel free to share.
I got two stories, one positive, one negative, both very impactful. we'll do the positive one first because the negative one is kind of crazy. But again, long story short, somebody sent a Bitcoin transaction from their Sparrow wallet. Okay, and again, we were talking about Sparrow wallet at one of these meetups. Um, got some details. He went home, and he's pretty proficient. He's not stupid or anything. He's a software dev. Um, I can't remember why he got into this situation, but he sent his Bitcoin to the wrong address. The checksum still worked apparently, but it was to a different address. He doesn't know how he did that. So he was scrambling, just absolutely scrambling and asking all of us. He's like, guys, I am freaking out. I just sent like a life savings worth amount of Bitcoin, but it's to the wrong address. And the checksum didn't work. I did it through Sparrow Wallet. So he's scrambling. Fortunately, because we talked about Sparrow Wallet, he played around with it before. A few of us did as well. He found the replace by fee button in the GUI, and I think Craig didn't have the GUI set up yet. I haven't looked at it as of late. He might still not have it, but he basically saved his ass by canceling the transaction and sending it immediately before the block confirmed. So right there's two very powerful things that I just said there. One, actually three. One, he learned new software. Two, he implemented that new software. But because we discussed that, he knew not only where, but the third part, to who I can talk to say, hey man, hurry up and help me in the next, less than 10 minutes, because I gotta save my life savings here. So that brings into that third point. You have that network on Telegram or on Discord or on whatever you're doing, that all these meetups again have all these, telegrams, and we all can't keep up with all that stuff. But you see a friend panicking in there. You're like, oh shit, hey man, let's, so you open up Sparrow, you go through, you're like, all right, cool. Where's that at? But I think that was one of the most positive, crazy stories to hear, because they learned a new software, they used it, something catastrophically happened, user error, but the network itself, the people that are actually on boots on the ground that you've met face to face, and you shook their hand and had drinks with them and stuff, they helped you immediately. And he rerouted the transaction, and it went into the wallet that he desired. So to me, that's very, very powerful. Just before I even say the negative one, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's huge, man. I mean, just like you said, it's something that, if he was maybe by himself, immediately he'd turn to Google. Maybe there's not an answer readily available on Google, or he, doesn't move the transaction in time and he loses that life savings, and then, boom, you're screwed. And all right, and of course there's these other avenues you could reach out to people, Telegram, phone call, whatever, but there's the difference of just being, in person and able to do that. It makes you feel a little bit more secure about it too. You have that person, that personal relationship, you trust that person, you've had beers with them, you've sat and talked shop with them, you've, gone through the whole details with these people for, months out of the year, days out of the year, or whatever. And then, you're able to I guess feel more comfortable that like, hey, he probably was freaking out, or she, or whoever it was freaking out at that time. They're like, oh shit, I fucked up. Right. But you have this network of people that, just all there to kind of help you out. And that this person that, is not trying to screw you over. They're trying to do everything they can to help you get your funds. And so I think, that's just, one of the many stories that I've heard. And that one's like incredible too, because I haven't really heard of anybody helping, reroute payments or anything like that on potentially lost funds, because, that's something that, you don't really hear about too often. It's people, putting in the wrong address or something like that. So, I mean, awesome story straight up just from right there. So, I mean, you went through the 3 steps yourself too. And I think that, that just is just a small microcosm. I mean, that's like one person, but imagine, you're, like you said, you're trying to pull it off of cold store, or you're trying to pull it off of an exchange for a first time, right? You have somebody in your network that's doing something similar, that's trying to help with like multi-sig or, cold storage or what have you. And they did it, a couple weeks before their funds got locked in, one of these exchanges that got shut down. And so, there's so many instances I hear of something like that where people are just able to save their funds and, kind of take control of it for themselves. And a lot of times it's through help of people that they met through these meetups. And I just think that that's, that point is just not hit home enough, to be honest.
And you said it. You said it at the beginning there. We all say don't trust, verify, right? But there, everywhere in life, you have to relieve a little bit of yourself for receiving just X amount of trust that you need, right? And the best way to do that is, hey, let me meet you in person and sit down and chat with you, right? You can hear the tone of their intentions, okay, without even saying any words. So that's and honestly, that brings me to my second one, and this is why I wanted to say two, because I find this very important. At the core, they're both collapse into, hey, this is what the group of in-person people have made, that lasting impact. But it's that layer of trust, and you could tell the people's intentions. So this second particular situation, again, I don't want to draw it out. Again, it's a more negative situation, but you got a new person that shows up to a meetup. He's like, hey, I'm just looking to buy Bitcoin. I'm looking to have, some non KYC Bitcoin, but I want to go and invest it and leverage it over here so I can buy this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, why do you need, again, we're just talking here. We're not assuming anything. Why do you need non KYC Bitcoin then? If you're going to go and give it to BlockFi, right, you can already tell where the conversation is going there. He wants a large sum of Bitcoin to send over to BlockFi to start earning interest. It's like, you don't need non KYC Bitcoin for that. Just go and buy it off of an exchange. Like, you're going to dox it you're going to dox it anyway. It doesn't matter. It matters at the end destination. It doesn't matter where you source it from. So after conversations, he's clearly a larger player, if you will. But he knows I'm the host. I'm organizing this stuff. Again, I'm an Azteco vendor, so I'll sell you vouchers and all that stuff. And he basically proceeds to ask, after a little more detail, he's like, well, how would you custody, $500,000 in Bitcoin? I'm like, oh, well, okay. I mean, that's, we're all just kind of looking at the meetup going, all right, this is getting a little different, right? Again, first time meetup, again, you pick up on the body language. I'm not saying that you can smell a person like that, but again, it's the whole environment stuff, right? I shook your hand, all that kind of stuff. Hear your tone. You can kind of tell we're off to a little sketchy start here. And by the way, this guy never showed back up to any of the meetups too. So, but again, going to your network part, we're all kind of looking at it a little sketchy. And he just continues to proceed to ask me, well, how would you, I want to get $500,000 of Bitcoin. Is there a way I can get it by Friday? If I give you $400,000 in cash tomorrow, can you go and get me the Bitcoin by Friday? And I'm thinking like, whoa, okay, whoa, okay. And again, this is the double-edged sword of being in person. But with the added benefit, I can try to pick up on your intentions and your vibes and your tone, right? So I immediately just shut that down and said, look, if you're asking me to, first and foremost, so now you become the parent, if you will, and you're like, all right, look, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, and this is why. Look, if you're going to send over to BlockFi, first and foremost, you're an idiot. But second, it's already going to be doxed anyway. So I'm not taking cash from you to do that. Second, there is no way you can hide over $10,000 in cash moving through the banking system. You can't do it. We kind of side footnote, we do a lot of events. Again, parents are entrepreneurs. We do a lot of events in town and stuff like that. We do an Easter egg hunt, and we do various things for kids, all that stuff. So when we go and give like brand new dollar bills, we had to file a report with the bank just to get $1,000 in that brick of brand new fresh $1 bills. So I can't walk into a bank, idiot, and just drop off $500,000. I'm not going to give you my Bitcoin and try to funnel this money in here. This already seems very sketchy. We want you to go to the house. We want you to meet with this person. I'm like, no. I'm not holding anybody's money and stuff. So the guy never showed back up. I never did any deals. I mean, yeah, I would have made a, what is it, 2% on an Azteco voucher or something like that. But I mean, I'm not going to sit there and print 500 vouchers. No, it's just asinine. But that goes to the point. The benefit of having that in-person meetup allows these people to come to the door, but you do need to kind of have your head on a swivel a little bit to where, all right, is this person trying to either scam me, scam somebody else, do something illegal? Am I going to be aiding and abetting in this? I want nothing. I want nothing to do. Look, man, we're just Bitcoiners trying to have a chat about Bitcoin over a beer, right? Real simple. If you want to get into higher stuff, go over the river. They will hold hand. They will hold your hand all the way through the. Well, I don't want to do that. Well, then I can't help you. So that was a more sketchy situation, if you will, on bringing people in. When they ask you, hey man, if I give you $500,000 in a brown paper bag, can you get me the Bitcoin by Friday? It's like, I can't believe I just heard that, but no, I cannot.
Yeah, I mean, and that story's not going to help the whole narrative of Bitcoins for criminals, right? Because I mean that all
No.
is sketchy in itself. But like you said, even with that in person, meet, you yourself can be the judge of that person's character and judge of what is his intentions, like what is kind of going on here, and like just kind of just use common sense to a point. Be like, all right, like this doesn't seem to make any sense at all. So I don't know. I mean, there is obviously positives and negatives of the interaction, but there's going to be a few bad apples that show up. Just case and simple, people are trying to, it's a microcosm of the greater ecosystem. I think like
Exactly.
there's going to be great Bitcoiners out there that are going to be trying to help you, and then there's going to be the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world, which are like scamming people left and right. So. But obviously at the end of the day, though, the positives definitely outweigh the negatives, right? So you've had all these different interactions, you've helped so many different ones start up, and you've had obviously that one positive story that you brought up, and I'm sure there's plenty more. But it sounds like that was one of the few negative situations that stood out. Is that kind of I guess the vibe that you've been getting?
There's been other nowhere near to that degree. Again, I've never been asked to take a $500,000 in a paper bag, right?
Yeah.
At a meetup in a public setting too. It's not like he pulled me off to the side or anything like that. It's like, I'm like, where's your wire at? Again, I'm not saying I'm sensitive to this stuff. I don't want to get into the Fed stuff all those years ago, but when you see that body language and you interact with that, you kind of, right? Well, what's the meme that we've used many times in different forms and stuff like that? Like they stereotype like the CIA agents, right? Everybody's in the shorts with the sunglasses, the shortcut hat, right? It's like okay, you guys are way too old to be here, but you're trying to look young, and it's just not working. You can point them out like a sore thumb, but there's been a couple others, mainly more on like just general crypto shilling. What else? But I think that's about it. There's really been nothing too hectic that nobody's ever knock on with some real wood right here. Real wood. Nobody's been in some. I don't want to knock on the printers or anything like that. That's all either steel or aluminum or whatever. But the most of the things are either around like people are shilling their a coin they bought, or some sketchy thing, or like, hey, we're doing this city coin. It's like, all right, just go over there and we'll sort you out. We'll have so and so go and sit with you. We'll talk with you. We'll have you a nice little therapy session for 5 minutes here, and we'll make you a good, hard and straight Bitcoiner. Real simple.
Yeah, exactly.
But all those other scenarios, they're very positive. Again, the amount of people that I've met, developers, and the beauty is you get like a 75-year-old guy that walks in with his wife, and he brings his grandkid or something like that. And it's like one of the Detroit guys brought his wife and his brand new baby to the first Bitcoin meetup. It was like you literally just had this baby like last week. It's like you're bringing her to a meetup. So you get such a vast diversity, and of course you can learn from all that. And then again, now you actually, okay, this guy's good at this guy's good at that. That's how Sonoda started in Columbus. They got a couple people at the Columbus meetup, a couple others as well, and they formed a company. So there's really cool things that happen outside of that as well. But it's really, meeting the people in person. And then on top of that, just the last point, just from a business owner, several businesses, the amount of leads is unbelievable, right? Everybody wants you to 3D print this thing, or, oh my God, can you do this? Or, oh yeah, I really been looking at this machine. Can I buy one from you? There's so many different leads as just as a entrepreneur in that category. But yeah, the high level is it's very open and free flowing on the network that you generate, and begin to receive back and forth. Stay with all those guys that in Miami, we got a house. The year prior did the same thing too. So yeah, it's just a lot of meeting your own people.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that can't be stressed enough. We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, how you've kind of been, head down building through this last 6 to 8 months or whatever it is. But you've resurfaced here at the beginning
Yeah.
of 2023. And it seems like there's a big year ahead for, not only Bitcoin, but the greater ecosystem and self-sovereignty and all that kind of stuff, surrounding it. And whether it's various movements on Bitcoin Twitter, where seed oil disrespect, or using a certain pan, it seems like there's something that kind of comes along the lines in Bitcoin Twitter that you can't really predict, but in the Bitcoin ecosystem as a whole. But what is something that you're really looking forward to in this next year that's
Oh my
getting
gosh.
you excited? And I know we only got like one or two things, but
Yeah, where do you want me to start? Jesus, yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much time, but honestly, one of the most exciting. I wanted to have something a little more formal here for you to announce, but I wanted to get some better pictures uploaded before I put on the store. There's some really fun trinket stuff, completely outside of just Bitcoin or 3D printing in that area. But what I've been working on, talking in the very beginning, it's been a very long process, and it finally just like came to a click. We've been doing a constant raise, got some family and friends and some other small funds involved in our area to back us on there. We're continuing to keep pushing all that stuff. But to me, the real kicker, we already kind of see where this is going. But to me, the real kicker is I'm very excited to release our workflow system to literally in one place on your computer, on your phone. I can literally turn a thought into a thing. Whether you have a printer or somebody in the area that has a printer, or just ask somebody to print it for you. That has been a lot of trial and error over many years to do that. To me, I think that's probably the main key focus there. There's some like AI stuff that's involved with that too. Obviously, you see that with pictures and the Chat GPT stuff and whatever else all that is. But to me, that's the major release that I'm looking forward to. Is actually showing how you can go literally from a thought into a thing within like a very tight time window. Like we're not talking a couple days here, which is really nice. And then a few other things, like I said, just some fun outside, kind of builder, trinket stuff. We have a new machine on the way as well. It's based off of the Voron design, and just kind of highlight what again what we're focusing on is having that full workflow system. But I got to see what I'm printing. Okay. I mean, I know you can watch the thing print, but I want to see it be displayed in full, graphics while it's printing. So there's a lot of cool improvements coming to that. Our stuff comes with a full desktop computer. You can slap whatever else you want in there, but it's mainly to run your CAD programs. Okay, so you can do everything on the device. and of course connect to it through your phone or web and all that stuff. No different. You connect to your node, but yeah, the main thing I'm looking forward to is um, the kind of software suites for your turning your thoughts into things. A couple new display products, a new machine on the way, and hopefully doing a little more luxurious stuff, if you will. So might do some if we get time for this year. Like I said, we were rolling stuff over to 24 already, so might get some time to release some more bougie things, if you will, just to do it. Might be dripped in gold and diamonds just to do it for no reason. But yeah, those are really the main things: the machine and the system for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff, man. And we didn't even really get into too much of your 3D printing stuff. So I guess like
I
this
know.
means
I got it.
I have to have you come back on at some point in time. You can't be hiding away building for like 6 to 8 months before I get you back on and we talk about your printing stuff. But I really
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on and doing all this stuff and diving into, the meetups and everything like that, and telling me what you're excited about. But if you want to give, I guess, like a quick synopsis of the 3D printing side of stuff, because you went over what you're excited about of it. If you want to go through that real quick and then we'll wrap up here. If you've got the time, then
you guys can follow me on Twitter. It's Maxwell Sikorsky. You're gonna be lucky if I either respond back. Yeah, I'll DM you. Don't worry, I'll DM you for sure. But publicly, I'm trying to curate that a little bit more. But I'm active on the Toledo Bitcoin stuff, on the Eden 3D printer handle as well. But again, just a synopsis on what the Garden of Eden does is mainly focus on providing the self-sovereign tools for you to turn your thoughts into things. So it's more detailed and feature-heavy machines, the tooling that goes around with it, and of course we have our farm subsidiary and we have our chips, the NFC. I didn't even get into authenticity on your just generalized products and stuff like that. So we do a lot of authentication for your various products and things like that. No need for not an NFT, not any crap like that. Just sign a Bitcoin message. Very simple, no cost, no cost to do that. But the real synopsis is we're a provider of the hardware and software tools, the machines for you to be a self-sovereign individual. And really that starts with, at least to me, it starts with obviously, being the best Bitcoin person you can, but all right, now can I produce this stuff at home? Can I make this? Now, is this an actual money printer? Can I generate revenue off of that? So there's a revenue avenue there. We already know many people that have a couple 3D printers that are selling Bitcoin related products. CryptoCloaks is fantastic. Rick is awesome. You got people over in the UK. You got Mopar Mining. You got a bunch of people doing that same Bitcoin Manor up in Canada. God bless him. He's doing an awesome job. But really, that's what the Garden of Eden is all about. You make the self-sovereign tools for people to make their own stuff. So, but again, follow me on Twitter. Definitely hit us up. Stay in tune with the Shopify page and the upcoming user site. So it'll be, oh my God, I'm so stoked. I can't wait to see. I mean, there's various little trinket stuff you made, but little stuff that's just all fun stuff like that, little fidgets. But for you to actually go and make your own thing and to generate income off of that, oh my God, like that's the dream.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. And just seeing how passionate and how excited you get about it makes me super excited about it. So let me know what else I could do to help you kind of get the word out. I'm putting your Twitter in the show notes and in the comments below for those who are listening and want to tune in and catch stuff like that. And then I think you have your Eden 3D printing website and your Twitter bio as well. So people go and check that out.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, thanks for coming on. And I hope you're staying warm up there in the Midwest. And yeah, like I said, we're going to have you come back on and do a full thing just strictly on 3D printing. And
absolutely.
Next time.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do a more deep dive into the either products or like a specific service. See what you think about that, and give your listeners a discount code as well. We can figure out a green candle coupon code or something like that for various merch. But yeah, definitely have to be back on. You enjoy the Florida weather, man. I was just down there for over the holidays, and it was a little cold. It was a little cold down in Naples area. So I don't
Yeah,
know
dude.
where you're at, but yeah, it was a little nippy. It's not
Yeah,
bad here right now.
yeah,
Not
people were
bad.
freaking out. It got down to like the 40s or something, and Florida for 2 days, I think. And Floridians really don't know how to handle the cold. And I mean, I don't really know how to handle it anymore either. So my
Oh yeah,
blood's
your
thick, but
blood's
I'm
so
not afraid to
thin.
admit that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing makes me laugh. You go like to a Walmart, it's like 50 down. Us Northerners are in t-shirts and shorts going golfing, and every coat, hat, glove is sold in the Walmart shelves because people are freaking out. It's so cold. It just cracks me up. But yeah, I definitely envy you in the warm weather. But we stay nice and toasty. I got the A6 downstairs, keeping the house warm. So
Yeah, there you
we're
go.
we're
That's
good.
what you got to do. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Max, thanks so much, and we'll have you back on here for sure.
Absolutely, man. Everybody take care. Thank you.